75% of people in 2019, I'm sorry, this was 2018, keep their smartphones 5 feet or less away at all times, right? And they report feeling extreme nervousness, anxiety, and even panic when they lack constant access to their phones. And according to Apple, smartphone users are checking their phones around 80 times a day on average. Now, I kind of want you to like just ponder that for a moment. It's a cell phone is like it's an object. It's a small little electrical box, and at any moment in the day, you always know where your cell phone is. It becomes like a child, you know? I mean, if you're listening to this on a cell phone, your cell phone's probably in your pocket or on your desk. That's fine. But can you imagine any other object? Like if I asked you right now, if I said, let's say you're a baseball fan, you know, where's your New York Mets cap? Or, you know, where's your baseball glove? You know, where's your sunglasses? Even other devices, you know, where's your laptop? I'd venture to guess you'd probably have to think about it, to recall. But a cell phone, just like neurologically, we have a tracer where we always need to know the exact latitude and longitude of the phone. And the way that these engineers have crafted applications, and the most valuable resource that we have, guys, and I apologize if I'm meandering. It's a very complicated subject, and there's a lot to say here. The most powerful thing that we have, the most powerful currency, isn't money. Time is absolutely up there. It's attention, right? Like at any given moment, what are we paying attention to? Are you paying attention to what's on the television, what's on the radio? You know, my voice. You know, what's happening outside your office window, and these software engineers that are creating applications, you know, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and what have you, they are profiting off of our attention, because the more we look at these apps, the more advertising revenue they receive from third-party corporations. Okay, so it is in their best interest, and people in Facebook have come out publicly and said it is in their best interest to perpetuate this addiction, to make it so that we are never bored and we are always staring at our cell phones. Okay, go for a ride in an elevator, in any elevator in the world today. It's 10 to 15 seconds. Okay, depending on, you know, I worked at City Hall, so those were like 45 seconds. But every person you see in the elevator, guys, will reach into his or her pocket, extract their phones, and hurriedly stroke their screens with their pointer fingers for a moment or two before depositing the device back into their pockets. You know, there's nothing like life-threatening, you know, that can't wait until they get off the elevator. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, but it's this craving that we have for stimulation, for new information. And as I said, you know, these companies do not have our best interest at heart. You know, Steve Jobs, this has been said very publicly. Steve Jobs wouldn't let his own children use these devices because he knew firsthand how dangerous they were. So, and by the way, there has been pushback against this. You know, you see, if you have the new iOS, I think it's like 11 or 12. Guys, I lost count. I don't know what number they're up to. But if you look at like the new iOS, they have this feature under settings called Screen Time, where it shows you how much time you've spent, you know, looking at your phone or you know, having your phone active, and it also shows you how many pickups a day, which is how many times you've unlocked your phone, and it's startling. I asked my buddy at work. I said, "How? You know, just check this. His was 6 hours." 6 hours, guys. You know, you're up from, I don't know, 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. That's what, 16 hours? 6 of those hours you're staring at a little screen. And people were concerned back in the 1500s that the invention of the printing press would mean the death of education. That didn't happen, right? People were troubled when TV was invented in the 1900s. What would that mean for books and intellects? People would never read again. People would never think. They'd just be parked in front of the TV. That didn't happen. And you talk to some people about the cell phones and stuff that I'm saying, and they'll turn around and be like, it's whatever. This has happened before. We'll be fine. But I actually argue, this is on a level, the proliferation of the cell phone in the last 10, 15 years on a level we've never seen in human history. Because the other examples that I mentioned, particularly the TV, that was escapism. But with the cell phone, guys, it's complete and uninterrupted escape. As I said, it used to be like 80 to 90% of our days would be spent like living in the real world, punctuated by short periods of virtual interfacing with instant messaging or online research or other activity done on a computer, right? Like you spend an hour back in the AOL days on, my sister would do like Neopets, like Habbo Hotel, whatever. But now the reverse is happening, guys. Our days, our very lives are spent almost exclusively on the web or the cloud. And the real world now is the punctuation. So like, instead of 80 to 90% of the day in the real world and 10 to 20% on the computers, it's 80 to 90% screen sucking in front of a phone or a computer, and then 10 to 20% in the real world. And it's particularly troubling for children, you guys. We grew up learning penmanship and writing everything. And these kids are growing up and they're texting. I was in a cafe in my neighborhood last month. I was, sipping on my iced coffee, submerged in one of these books that I don't shut up about. And a group of 3 boys, around 10 or 11, they walked in. They were just teasing each other, and something happened at school that day. I wasn't being weird. I was like half listening. I kind of smiled, thinking back to the way my friends and I used to do the same thing when we were that age. But the boys walk over to a table, these kids. They sit down, and in an almost synchronized fashion, they just withdrew their cell phones. And I glanced up at various times over the next hour, and the boys were still sitting at that table in silence, each one immersed in his own world. When I was that age, my friends and I would sit at the cafeteria for an hour, just exchanging lines from SpongeBob, laughing until my face hurt because my smile was so tight. I mean, playing basketball. When I was a kid, I printed out something called the shit quiz, and I brought it into my cafeteria, and I got in big trouble, but from the shit quiz. But that was what we did. We connected, and I'm gonna wrap this up because I could talk. I literally could talk about this all day, but I'm concerned about the ways that people, not only how their brains will develop from their inability to reflect and have their minds be idle, but also like socially. If you speak to children now, I feel like, and this is very hard to measure quantitatively through any sort of like empirical research, but I feel like kids are more awkward today, where they can't conduct improvised conversation. It's very much like they can create a text message that's very calculated, but they can't quite carry a conversation. It can't be witty and sharp. Everyone's a comedian now with Twitter and Instagram and memes, but it's different. And